G1. So a little bit surprised on this one. OMG just lock it in right away. Rogue Warriors being way more afraid of the Viego, which OMG still haven't pulled out yet this split, but Rogue Warriors at least going to get a very good, solid response coming out with the Sett and the Udyr. They aren't going to have that mixed damage coming out in both of their soul laners, but you would expect maybe for your top lane, or if this is going to go mid, right, bringing out something like a Gwen or some kind of control mage or assassin in the mid lane, like a Sylas, which we've seen into the Akali many times. So I feel like Rogue Warriors still have a lot of options with where they could go, but man, don't give Creme the Akali. We don't want to see that, Penguin. I mean, me and you want to see that, but Rogue Warriors don't want to see it.
I was just about to say, it's like, you know, if he might be going down as a bit of a one trick at this stage, but if it works, it works. But looks so damn proficient on this pick and just really able to kind of create his own little advantages. And I think that's the big difference between, say, good players and great players. That good players will find, you know, advantages that, like, you know, present themselves to themselves, but a great player will create and, you know, forge their own path to be able to kind of go for it. Speaking of forge, speaking of Gwen, locked in there, so you got yourself the AP laner, almost certainly going over to 8917 on the top side, so we're going to see the Sett into the mid as a counter to the Akali.
Yeah, so I feel like Rogue Warriors had two ways of going with it. They could have picked the Sylas, but at the same time, as OMG, you can always just flex the Akali to your other lane, so instead wanting to go with the Gwen, which is a lot stronger of a pick in this meta, in my opinion. Gwen just absolutely ridiculous. So most likely going to give that one to 8917. So you expect Forge to take Sett against the Akali. It is a bit of a free laning phase for the Akali with a lot of ways to especially maneuver around the Haymaker coming in, and as well as his E. So I like the adaptation from Rogue Warriors so far. Now we're going to look at where ZWuJi wants to go with his bottom lane matchup. So far, you have a lot of dive coming in from the side of OMG, so I think something that can play a bit further back in the fight, something like the Varus is still left open if ZWuJi wanted to go towards that. We have seen things like the Jhin start to fall off a little bit in priority. You also do still have the Thresh left open, which will enable one of these hyper carries coming out as well. So I would expect to either see the Varus come out here, or you could even just lock in the Thresh now and set yourself up for that hyper carry in the bottom lane.
See what the ones are go for. Still a bit of time before they have to fully commit to everyone, but no, looking like they're gonna go towards the Senna Tahm Kench. I like this little adaptation for ZWuJi and Chocho, able to kind of give themselves a lot more safety in the early stages of the game.
Yeah, it works really well, especially when you do have two champions with a ton of sustain coming out with Sett from his passive, Gwen from her passive as well, and you can just let them stay in the fight a lot longer, be that beefy frontline. Get ZWuJi to the point where he will be a prominent carry once he does get to, you know, 100 or 120 souls on the Senna. And now for the side of OMG, they're going to need a pick into the Gwen. They do go with the Jayce. It is something that can do well in lane once you get a few levels under your belt, because sure, Gwen might have that Hollowed Mist, which, you know, you have to get inside of the ring to be able to fight her, but that goes on a long cooldown afterwards. Jayce has plenty of time to put down poke and damage following suit. And now for OMG, ooh, I would have liked it if they went with the spicier pick coming out with the Gragas, but it does look like their comp is indexing more into engage, but we get it, Penguin. We get a Gragas coming out in the LPL. We've only gotten this a few times, and I feel like we have so many good Gragas support players here.
I was going to say, it's kind of almost a staple of LPL supports to be able to have this pocket Gragas pick. It's got the flash body slam, of course, you have the explosive cast as well, so a lot of different ways you can build it, and it really does open you up to have a lot more solid kind of engage, and something that can facilitate something like the Jayce and Akali that are looking to pick off key carries on the side of Rogue Warriors.
I think I would have liked it more if Rogue Warriors would have gone towards that Nautilus pick, because OMG have completely pivoted their comp to being a 1-4 style, like, kiteback comp, where, right, even Aki Xin Zhao, you can use the ult and knock other members away other than whoever you're challenging. We know we have two kitebacks in Jayce and Ezreal, and then you have all the kiting coming in from an explosive cask or a body slam, and then being able to get away from Gragas. So OMG going to keep themselves at arm's length. We're going to see Creme create chaos in a side lane, then look for flanks later on, try to find his way onto ZWuJi and instantly delete him. Then you're pretty much only relying on 8917 for the side of Rogue Warriors. So if Rogue Warriors had brought out the Nautilus, at least they would have more hard engage to rely on, but now it's going to be all up to both IceCoke and Forge.
We'll see if they're able to make this work. Of course, Senna Tahm Kench, infinite scaler in that bot side, and Gwen, as we know, is in absolute terror on the top, but you've got a hell of a lot of burst damage coming out here from OMG. Creme has got himself his patented and, you know, just straight up trademarked Akali in the mid lane, and I'm curious to see now how OMG are able to kind of, you know, facilitate this dive comp onto a team that is honestly quite good at mitigating a dive.
It's also just interesting the fact that, right, OMG are once choosing to go away from just playing a strict dive comp. You're keeping your mid laner on the dive champion, and even Aki has the potency to follow up, so if you can kite out that initial engage, get a lot of damage down with Jayce and Ezreal, you have a good turn potential coming out from those two to be able to do what they want. But this is a completely new style for OMG. We're going to want to see them kiting back fights. They're going to need to be able to get on midway first, win that contest with Ezreal and Jayce poke coming out, getting onto the objective first, and making sure that RW can't run into them.
Well, we'll see how it all pans out. We are jumping onto the Rift for game 1 of this best of 3. OMG looking to continue their good run of form. Rogue Warriors searching for that elusive first win. It all comes down to what happens onto the Rift. While we have a bit of a moment, I did want to actually mention kind of how weird, or the roller coaster of emotions you can have if you're a OMG fan from very, very long ago. I believe they're almost 10 years. I believe there'll be 10 years next year when, in terms of their, you know, participation in League of Legends. But this is a team that went to Season 3 Worlds, you know, got up against I think it was Starho and Royal Club at the time. It's like Going, Loveling, Cool, these guys that were very much at the top of their game. And these were the kind of team, this was a team that was for a while at the top of LPL, you know, was fighting the likes of, you know, ZWuJi, EDG, these kind of, you know, storied teams. And it really has been a very, very long time since we've felt good about this team. And right now, this is probably the best we've felt about them in probably 3 or 4 years.
You know, just talking about old OMG, I think the memory we all have is it was Season 4 Worlds, right? They were in the group with Samsung, Blue, LMQ, and Fnatic, and then just like the crazy games that would happen in that group, OMG and Fnatic definitely delivering with those base races coming out. But
yeah, that's where the SOAS TP came from. The SOAS,
exactly.
That's exactly where it came from. It was incredible.
Definitely one of the most memorable performances at Worlds. Well, like you said, then they went up against, I think that time they went up against Najin, and they actually won that, went to semifinals, lost to Starhorn Royal Club in a Game 5 series when they could have been the team to go to finals, and I feel like OMG's and Org would probably be remembered very differently by the Western world. But like you're saying, been a long time since that. OMG have had a lot of roster turmoil over the past few years where they've just had a revolving door of junglers, of supports, of AD carries. They were never able to really settle on a lineup until about last year, and this year finally making the adaptations coming in. It's nice to see, and you know, we're seeing the early game go a little bit as we'd expect. Jayce getting prio in that top lane matchup, despite the fact that if Gwen can find that level 1 onto him, she still can win out in the level 1, but once level 2 and 3 come along is where Jayce will start to do well. Aki gonna start looking to pressure early on with that Xin Zhao pick. He does have prio in both top and mid lane right now, so gonna feel pretty good at doing this scuttle. And I feel like OMG feel like they're in a fine place. You can take this game a bit slower. You're gonna look to play around your Jayce lane. And for Rogue Warriors, I actually don't know where they have many options of looking for ganks.
Well, speaking of ganks, we're going to see OMG now going to go for this dive in the top side. They have got the turret swapping around, so 8917 still relatively healthy in this one. They're going to try and go for it one more time as he does not have the flash anymore. First blood goes to Aki, and it was a long engagement, but as we see that the response into mid lane, IceCoke getting a kill back, and that is going to be 1-for-1 overall in the map.
Yeah, and, you know, I like OMG coming out and going for the redive, knowing, hey, if we juggle the aggro correctly, we can still pull this off. A little bit surprised Creme went down the mid lane. Akali, an extremely difficult champion to gank early on. You have the Shroud, you have your E, you have Flash. I know both of them did expend their flashes to do it, but we're going to see here, goes for the E right away. I'm guessing his Shroud must have been on cooldown because we don't even see that one popped. And then the Flash comes out for IceCoke, which just helps secure the kill for Rogue Warriors.
Start there for the junglers, of course, seeing if they can get any kind of advantage. New will gladly take a Gwen that's been put behind, as well as Forge being able to put behind the Akali. So we'll see now what the junglers want to do. And like you said, just like, you know, these early game junglers, the Xin Zhao, the Udyr, they have these potentials to be able to kind of, you know, capitalize on just, you know, slow early game champions like the Gwen, like the Akali, who once the Shroud is down, the Akali does lack a lot of escapability.
Yeah, and right, it just came from one of those things. The Rogue Warriors were timing out the window correctly. They got it down. But for Rogue Warriors, now that Creme's flash is down, there are repeat plays that you can look for in the mid lane. We also know you can look towards the top side because, sure, with Phoenix Stance, Udyr does do a lot of AP damage, but still providing that physical damage coming through as well. So if New's going to keep pushing like this, you do have opportunities in the top side of the map. New does still have flash up, though. 8917 does not. So we know this is going to be a top side of the map oriented game for both teams. When you have Senna, Tahm, Kench, right, it's all about waiting until that level 6, getting the Dawning Shadows, looking to emphasize that one. For the side of Abel and Cold, we're going to wait for Cold's reset to come out for him to start impacting the map, because Abel is going to feel no threat being in a 1v2 situation in bot lane.
Very slow kind of afterwards. It was kind of 2 blips on the radar, and then after that you can imagine that very difficult for the Xin Zhao or the Udyr without their flash to make anything really happen, so we'll probably be waiting for level 6s. Speaking of which, Creme and Forge have gotten their level 6s, so perfect execution available for Creme should he need it to be able to escape. And IceCoke, with no real camps, he's not really wasting any time here. He's more just hovering to make sure that the, you know, Aki isn't there, or Aki's not in a position to be able to kind of capitalize on a level 6 Akali. So just making sure that his mid laner is safe and keeping himself as annoying as possible as he can be with the man bear. But speaking of the man bear, very low health bar here for Abel, as Cold has to get the belly bop out just to stop out the man bear from running into him. And it's a little bit of a weird situation there on the bot side. I wonder how he lost so much HP.
I mean, it also just comes down to, right, how oppressive Senna Tahm Kench is. It's something that's been spoken at length for a long time. Especially when you do have a melee support like Gragas. Sure, you can throw out some trades with your barrels, but that's going to get healed up by ZWuJi. And ZWuJi is a player that I was having this discussion with Munchables earlier on the last hit, that I think ZWuJi is an extremely good player. We've never gotten to see ZWuJi on a middle or top tier team. Rogue Warriors did show glimpses of it last year, but still, I'd say for how many wins Rogue Warriors were able to pick up with that roster, it was a bit of a miracle with like the players they had and like how far they were into their careers compared to the top LPL teams. So nice to see ZWuJi and Cho coming out pretty well. And despite the lack of action, we've seen a lot of attempted action, right? Because even about a minute ago, Aki hovering up towards the top lane. We saw IceCoke sitting in mid brush for a while, goes down, threatens the bot lane dive. It just goes back to the fact that a lot of these lanes are quite hard to gank. Mobility on the side of Creme, a tank on Forge's side, 8917 having the passive and the resistances as well. You look at both bot lanes, extreme mobility on one side, a bunch of sustain on the other. So not a lot of options, I think, in terms of early aggression coming out. It's going to be a lot more about once we hit the mid game and getting those lane allocations and map setups to where the 1-4 for the side of OMG, and then RW can match with the 1-3-1, but being mostly about the 5v5.
Cold is here, whoop, little scary there with the smite, went down to about 6 HP. If he chose in a random barrel, he might have been able to steal it, but does mean the dragon goes over to Rogue Warriors, and as the Rift Herald spawns, we are going to see Aki respond in kind, and that is just going to, as I say, it's power now versus power later. You use the Rift Herald to try and get pressure around these side lanes, or maybe even to get some more gold onto either your Jayce or your Akali. Try and build that early pressure, get those early items down, and the dragons will just keep stacking if OMG cannot find a response to those.
And I like that we're starting to see Cold start hovering around the map, because you do have the freedom to do this. We did see Abel is getting chunked out a bit earlier on, but has been fine now. When we talk about the Rift Herald that Aki just picked up, I would expect to see it used in the top lane. New has already gotten a plate for himself, so hopefully you can break that one down and start transferring that pressure around the map to where Abel and Cold are on the losing end of things. I don't realistically think you'll be able to help them out and get that Herald drop down towards spot. And then Sett is a total tank in the mid lane. Throw out the haymakers, you have the Iron Spike Whip coming out, and the wave will just be on.
Again, like you said, slow early game in terms of the action, but the intent has been there. And speaking of intent, Aki is sneaking himself into some alcove gaming. And seeing if he can make something happen now onto 8917. There's a flash available, so it would be very, very difficult to make this 100% stick. But just going to use the pressure, and like you said, has got that Rift Herald in the back pocket. Probably going to be able to drop that one down off the next wave and just take this full turret.
Yeah, and right now we don't see an initial response coming out from Rogue Warriors. IceCoke isn't on the bottom side of the map, but might go to threaten that dive down bot, at least try to deny some golder plates. Right now he is counter jungling, but so far this just is a massive win for the side of OMG.
Yeah, 1,000 gold lead. They're going to keep pushing with this. This is Xin Zhao and a Jayce. They can do a hell of a lot of damage to these turrets. And again, now that you have the level 6 and onwards for Creme, excuse me, it is very, very difficult to lock down this Akali into that mid lane. It's very, very difficult to really make anything happen with that Udyr and Sett combination, because the Shroud, everything else, is just so much you can do with it that just makes you such a slippery little champion. And with that top lane now pushed very, very far forward, and also the second turret almost taken down as well, there's a lot of opportunities here for OMG to look to maybe influence the rest of the map. You know, we talk about some of the best top laners and some of the best players we have in the league, and something that we talked at length at last season was Nuguri was, you know, when he played this Jayce, was able to, you know, get first turret, roam around the map, influence those side lanes, and just kind of balloon the gold lead for FBX. And I want to see now if Nu can do something similar.
Yeah, and we already have mythics coming out for both Nu and Aki. Nu, of course, going towards the standard Eclipse. Aki's build being a little bit interesting. He just went straight towards the Gore Drinker. In a lot of instances, we have seen the Essence Reaver bin coming out. The fact that it is such a cheap item that does give Xin Zhao a lot of burst early on has been why Xin Zhao players have loved picking it up with that Spellblade passive. But instead for Aki, he wants to get closer to being more of an annoyance and a frontliner, which I think does make sense with OMG's comp, where it's like, hey, I'm going to buy space for Nu and able to be the big carries later on. And Creme so far has just been kind of fine, sitting mid. This matchup going as we'd expect, where there isn't really a lot of kill potential on either side when you are playing, you know, an assassin against what is pretty much a tank coming out from Forge. You are just ping-ponging waves back and forth. We've seen OMG just consistently do subtle things on the map to transfer pressure, whether it's Cold hovering towards mid, whether it's the ganks coming out from Aki. So far, no response from Rogue Warriors, but maybe Rogue Warriors feel fine just playing the scaling game, because you do have both a Senna and your Gwen on the team. If those two can combo up well later on, I think especially great performance from 8917, we've seen Gwen just completely bring games back. The EDG versus IG game is the prime example in my mind where Flandre's Gwen just took over. So we're going to be looking at 8917 to be able to pull off a performance like that once he does start getting towards his Riftmaker.
It'll be a while though, like you just mentioned, about 40 or so CS behind, which is a hell of a lot of gold and XP here in the favor of Nu. He's got himself a level lead. Of course, we can see the gold there. He's got himself about a 1,600 gold lead that's basically just on him on the top side. That whole gold lead is basically just the Jayce versus the Gwen. And right now you can see OMG, they're posturing around this dragon pit. They don't want to keep this one stacking. They know if they can take this one out away from underneath Rogue Warriors, they give themselves an awful lot more of a chance to be able to kind of, you know, create their own win condition it later on.
I also think for OMG, the fact you don't have any camps up for Aki just means going for Dragon is the obvious choice. He's nothing else he can be doing on the map, maybe other than hovering for Nu and getting down some deep vision so he can just keep pushing out this lane. But I like this choice quite a lot. We're going to see the 1-3-1s come out from both teams. This is, of course, where OMG are going to thrive for now. I think Cream's going to be the one who feels much more confident sitting in the side lane, to where when more neutral objectives come up, when next Rift Herald spawns, we're going to see Nu being the one to group a lot more. Maybe try and pick up the next Rift Herald, turn towards the mid, drop that one down, lay down all your siege and poke. For IceCoke, I think ideally you'd want to be punishing Nu in that side lane. They do have the Tahm Kench with the Abyssal Voyage as well, so Nu needs to play respectfully, not give any windows over for Rogue Warriors to pick up some gold and get their champions like Gwen and Senna online.
Yeah, and I actually like the small little adaptation here from Abel. He picked up his Muramana and before his Divine Sunderer, so just kind of saying, look, I know we're probably not going to be able to get any kill pressure. There's no real reason for me to go full mythic right now. I can just get the early stacking on this very, very quickly. And again, it's a very, very small thing. He goes with it anyway, but small little adaptations like that to just show you kind of people are thinking actively about the game. They're looking to see what is the most optimal route, and Actually going to see the turret plates do pop up, and you can see there 320 for Aki and Nu, so nice little 600 odd gold there for both the jungler and top laner, as they did take down the full turrets on the top side. Now with the second Rift Herald spawning, it's going to be OMG kind of quicker on the mark, and this is kind of what we saw from OMG in their wins against RNG and OMG. They're quick, they're fast, they're not letting you just rest on your laurels and wait for you to come back into this game. They're the ones that are being proactive in these games, and it's good to see them continue that trend here.
And I just wonder what's Rogue Warriors' game plan. So you can see they're starting to hover around bot side. They're gonna start leaning their bottom lane down, threaten a potential dive coming out onto Creme, and trying to allow that into taking the bot tier 1 turret. But OMG are gonna win out so much more on the top side of the map.
Yeah, and even you look to try and threaten this dive, like Creme is an Akali, and there is a TP on the Jayce as well. So yes, you get the tower and you kind of back him off, but you might lose a tier 2 for it, or even just a tier 1 in mid lane. So a lot of different movement here from OMG. You can see they're trying to just capitalize on the fact that there were resources put in towards that bot side, and it looks like mid lane is going to be the call here. Don't think they'll be able to take it down just yet, but a lot of damage done here by OMG onto that mid lane tier 1. And again, very, very slow game, and very much a kind of, just waiting to see who can get their items first. And I'm not quite sure Rogue Warriors know what they want to do right now, because it doesn't look like they're being, as you said, very proactive. They look towards bot lane, they just got that turret, didn't really kind of, fizzle into anything, and they just have to back away. So I'm curious now what their mid-game call will be.
For me, what I want to see come out from Rogue Warriors is you do a similar setup to what you just did. Send Forge down towards the bottom lane, push out, a wave or two with IceCoke hovering around for one of them. Start pathing up towards top side, rotate Forge to mid, and have Chocho, IceCoke, and 8917 make a 3-man play onto Nu with the Abyssal Voyage coming out, so it doesn't even matter that Nu has all that vision up towards top side. Because I feel like we've been seeing Nu be able to freely play in a side lane, where realistically he shouldn't be able to play up that aggressively. He should be forced a lot more to be doing what he is right now, grouping up mid, playing with his team, because there should be threats coming out from the side of Rogue Warriors. We just haven't seen the play I just described even threatened yet. They're kind of just chilling, OMG's like that roommate that always just comes in and takes their stuff, and Rogue Warriors are very timid, and like they want to tell them, hey, no, that's mine, that's my shirt, that's my food, but they just don't do it. They just accept.
Yeah. You just gotta, you're not gonna stand up for yourself, then no one's gonna stand up for you. You gotta take back your biscuits.
Don't let anyone take your taquitos, Penguin. Don't let anyone take your taquitos.
I don't even know what taquitos are, man. They're not a thing in Ireland. What are taquitos?
Taquitos are like, it's kind of like the same of like any Mexican cuisine, right? You have like the flour tortilla. It's like very, very tiny and thin, usually some kind of like beef or barbacoa inside. It's fried. It's still, dude, it's delicious. It's delicious. Any of our like more
quesadillas, man. Now I just want quesadillas. Like, can we do
quesadillas?
Can we do something with like, like one of the other? I would absolutely love, like for Worlds or something, they do like a big collab with all the leagues and they show like traditional dishes from all the different places and they all got to try them. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I do have a lot of experience with the cuisine of the other leagues. Coxinha, CBLOL, I do miss you, but so far, Penguin, I feel like what we're getting is not exactly what we expected, right? We sold OMG as today we choose violence.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. They're
maybe
choosing
we get
it right now. There's a good explosive cast into IceCoke, but there's a lot of sustain. The TP is here from Forge. No real summoners being burnt here right now. You just got the TP out. Everyone's still very much timid and waiting to see for their full execution. We're going to see some shock blasts off to the side. They're going to go for it. Nice true shot barrage across the team. But you can see how tanky, just how much sustain you get with this Senna combination. It's so difficult to whittle people down with this Ezreal Jayce combination. The plan would be that you would whittle down their health bars and then the Akali would go in to finish them off. But everyone's still pretty much full HP, even with 3 or 4 different, poke tools being used.
Yeah, and it's funny that OMG were the team that had prio all around the map, but Rogue Warriors are the team who were able to force themselves onto the objective first because of some late back timings coming out from OMG. I like that Rogue Warriors are going to force this one down and force OMG to come into them.
Oh, here we go. Dragon's been stolen now by OMG, and here the fight can really happen. Forge is the first one to fall, so it's a 4v5. Going to be a 4v4. Oh, as I say that, Creme! He's a slippery little Akali, and he gets himself out. And Rogue Warriors, they don't have the cooldowns to continue this chase. OMG get the dragon, they get themselves out, and they get everything they wanted.
And it's funny that we saw how both comps interacted, right? Where neither of them really felt comfortable looking for the engage. Neither side having a ton of engage coming out. You're relying on Sett and Udyr on one side, which isn't really reliable hard engage. You have Xin Zhao, Gragas on the other. So, you know, OMG would prefer to be the team that is on the objective first, able to throw out their poke. If they are the one doing the objective, they can force Rogue Warriors to go for the engage. So you're not having this extended standoff where all the Senna heal is coming out to keep members like QiuQiu and Forge healthy. But on vice versa, if Rogue Warriors are there first, it's like, hey, OMG are going to feel threatened to come into you, and then you're going to be in that position where, hey, Sett gets a very good setup onto Cold, bringing him into the rest of your team. ZWuJi's putting off damage on the back line, and then you're really looking at all the AoE from 8917 to pull it off. So, you know, that was favored towards OMG in that last fight, but the longer this goes, the more I think this will be pretty good for the side of Rogue Warriors.
Yeah, you can see here, this is just kind of the Dragon Steal. Just jumps in, 1v3, and they try and get an engage off with Sett, but there's no one really to back him up on this fight.
So the big thing is just the other members are so focused on making sure that Creme can't find the assassination coming out onto ZWuJi, right? Because we saw all four of them turn around to deal with the Akali, which pretty much just left Forge with his hands up in the air like, come on, guys, I'm in middle of all of them. We can kill these guys, but still paying respect to Creme, did have his ult available, didn't want to lose the Senna because the Senna really is like the crutch of this composition.
A 2,000 gold lead, and one dragon lead. As I say that, Creme is going to use the Shuriken flip over to the side. Now backing towards his mid lane, where there's a little bit of pressure coming in here from Rogue Warriors. Very short range comp from Rogue Warriors. Very difficult for them to really siege down turrets. It's not really in their toolkit until much later in the game when Senna does get that ridiculous range. And a turret will not fall just yet. New respecting the fact that people had backed away, did not have full vision of IceCoke or 8917, so backs himself off just to make sure he does not become a free meal to the side of Rogue Warriors. And right now it's again a very, very slow and kind of methodical way of doing things. It feels like neither team really wants to go for an engage. One, because they don't really have an engage, and two, they don't really want to lose anything around the map unless it's for an objective like a Baron or a Dragon.
Yeah, and I feel like the big question will be the amount of souls ZWuJi has, which, you know, thankfully we're getting to see right now is at 85, so getting closer to that, you know, 100 to me is where Senna really starts feeling strong, and especially like 120, 140 is when you just become absolutely devastating to deal with, as New deciding he doesn't want to interact with 8917. He's going to let him run away and keep his life. And for now, it's still just the same posturing coming out. I feel like we're going to be playing the Dragon game for yep. the rest of this Penguin, right? Neither team looks like they're going to look for any sort of Baron, but you don't have great turn potential on either comp. And I wouldn't say you have a phenomenal Baron on either side, though I do think Ezreal's Baron speed is actually quite decent. But for Rogue Warriors, they feel fine scaling up. For OMG, you finally do have the two items coming out on Able, the Divine Sunder and the Mirror Mana being out. New also on his 2-item power spike, so I definitely feel like this is where OMG should feel more powerful relatively to where Rogue Warriors are, and where it'd be nice to start seeing them looking for those side lane plays, but also start having New push out a side, group up with a team, putting down that siege down on mid turret, turning to the enemy jungle, getting vision and looking for picks. So that same formulaic play you always see from this comp is what we want from OMG, and Creme 010 does have a bounty.
Yeah, just straight up from the CS. He's got himself a 30 CS lead or so, and just trying to live his best life. Even with a single death and no assists or kills, he's still just as powerful and just as worthy of a bounty.
Where's
into
News
this game.
Bounty? Penguin, where's News Bounty? He's 40 CS up and he's 1-0-1.
He actually had one about 2 seconds ago, and then it just went away. So I don't know why that's just gone out. Those are the mysteries of League of Legends, as we now see both teams posturing for this Dragon Pit. 20 seconds till that one spawns. Yeah, I've got some pretty decent item spikes here now for the side of OMG. The Zhonya's just got picked up. You will have all summoners available for both sides. And screw having double TP on both of your solo laners. We're going to go for the full ARAM around this dragon. You can see ZWuJi taking a bit of punishment on the backside. They need to be careful with these mystic shots just kind of flying in from the left and right. Dragon is alive. And the rest of the teams are just kind of trying to sustain. They need to try and make some of this poke stick if you're on the side of OMG.
Yeah, you know, for poke sticking, we even see IceCoke picking up a Warmog second, though that's not going to do him any good if he stays in combat the whole time. I think OMG forced them out.
Might have.
Should come out soon.
Taking a lot of damage. They jump in. There is going to be the Dawning Shadow to try and keep 8917 alive. And with that massive AoE teamfight tool down, it means we're going to see OMG going on to Soul Point. And I gotta call out Rogue Warriors right now. I might have to stop myself for a second. IceCoke getting jumped on here. Should be able to. Oh, perfect execution! Oh! Creme was saying double bait, and that one right there, able to just completely obliterate 8917's health bar.
And that is why so many people are hyped on Creme, right? Because in these scenarios where it's like, okay, both teams are going to start backing off, Creme sees the angle, he knows he has the perfect amount of damage to get the kill, and he goes for it. With those 2-item spikes coming out, OMG do have enough damage now to be able to land some good poke, especially if those accelerated shock blasts from Nu are able to hit, where ZWuJi isn't really able to sustain everyone up through it. And with that, OMG were able to get into River. They were able to force Rogue Warriors off the objective and turn and take that objective. So, you know, OMG also getting close to having a lot of sustain themselves, as they are pretty close to getting Ocean Soul, and they have 2 Ocean Drakes themselves. As we get to see the replay, the second E coming out does go in with the Q as well. Follows in with R, has the passive hit at the end, and just beautiful. Beautiful coming from our rookie mid laner, showing that if Akali is up, he will pick it every time. This is his 6th game on the champion. His most played by far. His second most played. His three champions he's played once. So, Rogue Warriors, I would love to see a draft adaptation going into next game, regardless of win or lose.
Yeah, honestly, it just feels like you're giving Creme just something he's super, super comfortable with, and something that the team of OMG feel very, very comfortable playing around. But again, I gotta say, like, just before that, you know, little assassination came in, I gotta call out Rogue Warriors. They're being almost too passive right now. You've got such great AoE teamfight tools. You've got such great sustain in the fights, and they just seem almost too timid to go anywhere near OMG. And by the time they even get close to them, the poke damage is done. We saw it there. They needed to use a Dawning Shadow to keep the 8917 alive, and that level of scaredness, I suppose, is the word I'm looking for. It's like, or fear.
Fear.
It's just, yeah, fear is the word I was actually looking for, but it really does seem to be hindering them quite a lot, and I just don't see how they can really make anything happen if they're going to be playing this scared.
Yeah, and their first priority is going to have to be blowing flashes off OMG's team comp, because at least in a straight 5v5, they can never run headfirst into OMG. I feel like OMG do have enough mobility and like escape tools to be able to get away from IceCoke or Forge just flashing in and looking for the engage. You probably want to force them into either in front of Baron or Dragon. Look to have Forge on a flank in some kind of brush, flash Face Breaker into the Showstopper, try and get someone like Abel or Nu into your team and force the fight that way. Because, you know, as this game progresses, OMG's gold lead is only building more and more. They're getting item advantages over you, and their poke's only going to hit even harder.
Well, speaking of a bit of an advantage, you can see Creme here going to use the perfect execution to get himself perfectly over the wall. IceCoke going to try and go head-to-head with him, but 1v3, and you can see here, Creme is kind of coming out on top of this. The Baron will be started by OMG, and now IceCoke is going to have to use the Abyssal Voyage to get back up towards this Baron top side, but you committed 3 people up to that, or down to that bottom lane, and you couldn't even come out with anything. Creme didn't have to blow, apart from his ultimate, he literally used nothing.
So 2019 summer, back when I was still a coach, whenever my players would talk about Akali, because Akali was the most prevalent pick in that meta, the thing they hated the absolute most about her was how much time she can buy in a side lane. Because if you ever do get baited into trying to make that pick, you're going to see exactly what happened there. The Shroud, the E, the Ultimate, heck, Creme still has Flash up. You can pull them away for so long that the enemy team forces Baron, and now you're left in this really awkward choice of like, well, we've already committed, she's already almost dead, but we can't lose Baron. So OMG with that play also just gaining a ton of tempo on the map, right? Because Creme was able to continuously push out bot side. So definitely one of the big strengths that Akali has is the ability to buy time and the ability to help the rest of your team further their tempo leads to make more plays.
You know, speaking of making plays, IceCoke, by being a little bit of trouble, has his flash. The explosive cast not good enough to keep him back over the wall. I like the idea, though, from Cold, able to try and predict where the flash would be and push him back over the wall, but not to be this time around. But now you've lost the flash from the side of IceCoke with 30 seconds until this Baron spawn. Or sorry, excuse me, not the Baron, the Ocean Soul spawns. This is a bit of a risky situation here for Rogue Warriors. Your entire advantage is that you have sustained, but if you give an Ocean Soul over to Akali, Jayce, and Ezreal, you're just never going to kill anyone. And
just look how far ahead they are in terms of items, right? Across the board, their carries are on 3 items. All of Rogue Warriors are on 2 at most. You do have 8, 9, 7 on 2.5, but Rogue Warriors now know they need to find the engage. Forge tried.
ZWuJi can't do anything. The True Shot barrage hits him across, and Creme is on the lookout. But while that's all been happening, we can see Forge jumping in, trying to make something happen with this set. This is a very scrappy fight. Rogue Warriors trying to go for something. The Dawning Shadow, not enough. They had lost ZWuJi. That was not the fight to go for. QiuQiu has to flash away. That's going to be Ocean Soul, and this feels like it's just going to be a matter of time until OMG close it out.
And I just don't feel like Rogue Warriors have the tools. They don't have the hard engage coming out from their composition. They don't actually out-sustain them. OMG have already picked up a massive gold lead, right? They're already at a 5k gold advantage, so we were highlighting how you look especially new and able, and they're both a full item up over their competitor. And also, you know, because we are the fasting Senna, ZWuJi still only sitting on the Divine Sunder. Sure, you have all the items onto QiuQiu, but it doesn't matter if Abel and New's poke is hitting the backline, and Creme always has an angle to find that perfect execution.
Well, important to note, Rogue Warriors have got the 2 TPs on the 2 people who are dead. So they are looking to try and maybe make this one work. As I say that, Creme goes straight onto ZWuJi. He gets exhausted, and they're going to jump straight onto him. Devour from QiuQiu keeps him alive, but just barely. He flashes away. The perfect execution misses. So does the True Shot barrage, but 8917, as quick as he was up, as quick as he's dead. And that's going to be 3 people trying to kill Creme, and Creme picks up a honey fruit. No way he's going down, and they go straight back to the big purple worm.
And you know, this might be weird to say, but I feel like this, what looks like a win coming out from OMG over Rogue Warriors, is one of the things that solidifies them as, you know, kind of that jump from a lower team last split to a middle tier team, at least this split, right? Because typically when we do have teams of the same stature coming out against each other, it would be a lot closer, more fiesta-y, but this has been completely one-sided towards OMG. They've shown like, hey, you know, we are at least a tier above the current bottom teams, and they're keeping it, I'd say, pretty disciplined in how they're playing it out.
Yeah, this is the replay, and this is it. Like, ZWuJi is gone. Forge goes in by himself. Like, no one is ready for that. He's already chunked out so hard, and it just seems so disjointed, so separated from the side of Rogue Warriors, and it doesn't feel like they know what's going on at all.
Well, I think that also highlights the position there, right? Because for Forge, there is no right choice. If you don't go in, your team is continuously taking poke, you're backing off, you're giving over soul. If you go in, you're right, you're alone, it's scattered, but it's really the only option you have, right? You hope you go in, you hope someone's in range to where they're able to dish out some sort of damage. So it's one of those options where the problem wasn't like anything in that play itself, it's the decisions and the position that got you to having to be in that scenario.
Speaking of difficult decisions, you can see Rogue Warriors, they just don't really have wave clear to deal with these, you know, baroned up minions coming into the base. So once these, you know, 1 or 2 minion waves do crash in, they're able to sync that one up with topside. It's going to be so difficult for them to be able to defend on multiple lanes. And you can see here, just 1, 2 auto attacks. IceCoke is going to be able to sustain because he has that Warmogs, but what can they do? They can't touch anyone on OMG right now.
And look at Creme. Creme's just solo taking a turret topside. Flank from Forge?
The flank came in. Forge is going to try and use the showstopper to start it all off. ZWuJi has used the Dawning Shadow as well. So yet to see anyone die from OMG, and I just think they're just too far ahead. They're just too healthy. They've got the Ocean Soul. They've got the damage. OMG, as clean as you like, in 34 minutes will decimate Rogue Warriors.
Yeah, completely decisive victory coming out. It might not have been fast, it might not have been violence today, but still a very clean win coming out for OMG.
And a great start, and a perfect, analogy that you mentioned is OMG making that transition from a bottom 4 or 5 team to maybe a top 12, top 10 maybe, depending on how long they can kind of, keep this gravy train rolling. And for Rogue Warriors, they just didn't have anything going for them. They had no real concept of what they wanted to do. They felt like they were just floundering from a very early stage. They didn't know how to deal with the Jayce. The Akali, they kept trying to shut down Creme, and Creme just kept getting away. It was all over the place.
Yeah, it was one of those things where we saw them try to find early aggression, but you look at the composition, right? You have Ezreal, Gragas on the bot side, extremely mobile. What's going to happen is what we saw happen, where you're going to be able to force him off turret, maybe with a third of a dive, but you should be able to kill them. Akali, I feel like he did a nice job of timing that window where Shroud wasn't up, but when Shroud is up, we also saw attempts made there. It's not going to work. Your only potential avenue was trying to punish the Jayce in top side. I think accelerating your Gwen ahead, and then you have a potential route to win where, since he's accelerated, he can take more of the fight. He'll be dishing out more damage if the Senna is sustaining him in the back line, but he fell behind. We never saw those side lane plays that we set up looking to be made to get him back into the game. And then it was a slow bleed for Rogue Warriors where it's like, well, we don't really have good enough engage to get on top of them, but they also don't need to come into us, and we're not able to out-sustain their poke at this point in time. So it felt like there were wrong choices made, and they also had the harder draft to play into what OMG brought out. But also big kudos to OMG. They pulled out a composition that wasn't the same sort of Nocturne, Kai'Sa, Akali. We all go in at the same time. They played it patiently, they kited back, they played the map, they played the objective game, and it was smooth.
It was so smooth, only losing 1 kill, and it was right at the beginning of the game when we saw Forge and IceCoke use that very potent combo of Sett, Udyr, and it never happened again. You can see just great damage numbers from all 3 carries on the side of OMG, and the big blue mountain, a couple of small little puddles of red in the early game, but that big blue mountain just kind of creating itself slowly but surely up and up and up and up. And as you said, at that point, there was just nothing Rogue Warriors to do. They didn't have damage, and look at 8917's damage. He almost gets his same damage. I actually had to look at his name twice because I was like, wait a minute, 8489 or 8917, which is the damage number, but just not able to do anything in this game, and really was just hard shutdown with the fact that New on this Jayce just got so far ahead so quickly.
And I'm so happy to see it because New is a player that I think a lot of us had kind of written off, right? We thought of him like, oh, hey, New's going to be this weak side top laner. You're going to leave him on an island, and, he will fall slightly behind and try and be a role player later on. But I feel like we've seen him have a lot of good moments this time around. I think there are still windows where he's not exactly punishing when he can be moving off topside or off wave to look to help with his team more, and I feel like better teams would have punished him, but he's doing a great job in terms of lane and utilizing his pressure. And then I feel like we've seen him have so many good moments in team fights this split. To me, that's where New has really shined is, whether it was the accelerated shot blast today or things like the Wukong he brought up before, the Lee Sin, finding those prime engages. So nice to see a lot of these guys on OMG get a bit of a jolt back in their careers.
Yeah, again, like we mentioned at the start of broadcast, this was a team that went to Worlds. This was a team that was, touted as one of the OGs of Chinese League of Legends, and they kind of just fell to the wayside over the last few years, and it feels like they've finally been given a breath of life within them, and this new team seems to be doing fantastically so far, but we'll see if they can keep that one going. We're going to throw it to a quick break, and when we return, we will have Game 2 of Rogue Warriors versus OMG.